Step out of the line.
What's the issue?
Hands where I can see him. Turn around.
For what crime?
Don't test me. You're being detained. Stop.
This is the moment that will cost him everything. Not just his badge, not just his job, but his reputation, his pension, and a settlement so large the city will spend years explaining it away. $18 million, quietly approved, a number that follows him forever. And it all starts here, inside an airport terminal, where arrogance mistakes silence for submission, and authority confuses itself with immunity. The officer doesn't know it yet, but his career has already ended. He just hasn't been told. The man standing in front of him is calm, not passive, calm. The kind of calm that unsettles people who rely on intimidation. His posture is upright. His voice is even. There's dignity in the way he stands his ground, not with volume, but with restraint. That calm becomes a mirror, and the officer doesn't like what he sees reflected back. Power hates being questioned. The officer's tone sharpens first. It's subtle. A tightening of words, a decision made without announcing itself. He isn't reacting to a threat. He's reacting to defiance. The quiet kind that doesn't bow quickly enough. The kind that forces him to escalate if he wants to remain in control. And control is everything. Around them, travelers shuffle forward, eyes averted. Airports train people to obey without thinking. Lines move. Orders are followed. The officer is used to this environment bending to him. But the man in front of him doesn't bend. He asks questions, simple ones, legal ones, questions that expose the thinness of the officer's authority in this moment. That's when the danger begins, because this is no longer about procedure. It's about ego. The officer leans into his role, inflating it with threat. His words carry an edge now, dismissive, condescending. The implication is clear. Comply, or I will make you comply. He believes escalation will restore the balance. He believes fear is faster than explanation. What he doesn't realize is that every word he chooses is being weighed, not just by the man in front of him, but by supervisors, lawyers, jurors yet to come. This is the anatomy of a career-ending mistake. The moment when authority stops being lawful and starts being personal. The man's calm doesn't crack. If anything, it hardens, becoming unshakable. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't posture. He asserts his dignity like a fact, not a challenge. And that is what infuriates the officer most. Because dignity cannot be commanded. It cannot be seized. It can only be respected or violated. And the officer chooses violation. Every 45 seconds, the ground shifts further beneath him. Each instruction he gives without cause. Each accusation unsupported by fact. Each escalation justified only by his own irritation. This is how bias operates, not loudly, but efficiently. It selects a target, assigns intent, and then backfills reasons after the damage is done. The officer tells himself a story. This man is being difficult. This man needs to be shown limits. This man is challenging authority. But the truth is simpler and more dangerous. This man is not afraid of him. That realization lands like an insult. The officer's jaw tightens as his authority is questioned without being named. He feels watched, judged. Not by the crowd, but by the man who refuses to look away. The power dynamic flips, just slightly, and the officer lunges to reclaim it. Turn around. The command isn't about safety, it's about dominance. And when the man asks why, politely, firmly, the officer hears something else entirely. He hears insolence. He hears disrespect. He hears a threat to the fragile hierarchy that keeps him on top. This is where officers lose cases. This is where cities lose millions. Because the law doesn't protect feelings. It protects rights. The man's dignity becomes a weapon now. Not because he swings it, but because he doesn't. He lets the officer expose himself, every unjustified order, every clipped response, every refusal to explain. The calm becomes evidence. The officer steps closer. His voice drops. He believes proximity will reassert control. He believes the uniform still carries weight, but the man does not retreat. He does not flinch. His composure is surgical, predatory, even not in aggression but in patience. He knows something the officer doesn't, and that knowledge terrifies the officer, though he won't admit it. This is the most dangerous moment of all, when an officer senses he may be wrong, but escalates anyway to avoid losing face, because backing down now would mean acknowledging excess, and excess leads to consequences. So he doubles down. You're being detained. For what? The question hangs there, unanswered, unsupported, uncomfortable. Around them the air thickens. Someone slows their pace. A phone lifts slightly, then lowers. The system relies on invisibility, and this is becoming visible. The officer reaches for his radio. This is the sound that changes everything. Not because help is coming, but because oversight is. Because now the narrative leaves his control. Now, there will be another voice, another set of eyes, another interpretation of events. And if that voice doesn't align with his version, his finger hesitates. Somewhere, a supervisor is about to hear a call that will follow this officer for the rest of his life. And as the radio crackles to life, the man finally speaks a sentence that lands like a verdict. You should think very carefully about what you do next. The radio chirps back before the officer finishes his sentence. A voice. Calm. Senior. Controlled. Unit 12, what's your status? That voice is a problem, because once a supervisor is listening, the officer is no longer performing for the man in front of him. He's performing for the record, and the record has no tolerance for ego. The officer straightens. His tone changes. Not softer, but cleaner, more official. He gives a clipped summary that avoids specifics. He omits the lack of cause. He frames defiance as disorder. This is how narratives are built in real time. Not with lies, but with selective truth. The man listens. He says nothing. His silence is deliberate, calculated. Silence forces others to keep talking, and the officer does. He explains too much now, justifies too quickly. Each sentence is another thread pulled loose. He claims authority without citing it. He implies threat without describing one. The gaps are obvious to anyone trained to hear them. The supervisor asks a single question that lands like a blade. What crime are you detaining him for? The officer pauses. That pause is fatal. In that silence, everything becomes clear. The airport noise hums around them, rolling bags, distant announcements. But between them, there is nothing. No answer, no statute, no justification. This is the moment lawsuits are born. The officer finally responds, his voice tight. Failure to comply. The man lifts his chin slightly, not in defiance, recognition. He has heard this before. It's the charge that appears when the original reason collapses, the fallback, the invention. He speaks, still calm, still measured. I've complied with every lawful order. The word lawful hits harder than any insult, because now the confrontation isn't emotional, it's legal, and the officer knows it. His authority was supposed to end the conversation. Instead, it has exposed him. His breathing quickens, not enough to notice, but enough to feel. His hand hovers near his belt, not from fear of attack, but from the instinct to reclaim dominance through ritual, uniform, tools, procedure. But procedure is exactly what he's abandoned. Another officer approaches, younger, watching closely. This officer hasn't chosen a side yet, but his presence changes the math. There are witnesses inside the system now. The original officer feels it slipping. Control, narrative, momentum. He issues the command again, louder this time. Turn around. The man doesn't move. Instead, he does something far more dangerous. He identifies himself. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. A name, a title, words spoken like facts, not shields. He doesn't demand respect, he assumes it. The air shifts instantly. The younger officer freezes. His eyes flicker, recognition, then alarm. This isn't just a passenger. This isn't just a complaint waiting to happen. This is someone who understands the law at a level that terrifies people who abuse it. The original officer reacts the only way someone trapped by their own arrogance can. He dismisses it. Doesn't matter who you are. That sentence will cost the city $18 million. Because it proves everything. It proves this was never about safety, never about protocol, never about compliance. It was about asserting power over a man who refused to shrink. The supervisor's voice returns, sharper now. Say that again? The officer repeats himself, doubles down. He can't reverse course without admitting error, and error feels like weakness. So he commits fully to the wrong path. The man is placed in restraints, gently, professionally, no struggle, no resistance. His calm remains intact, even as his freedom is taken. That composure becomes the most damning evidence of all. Jurors don't sympathize with chaos. They sympathize with dignity. As he's escorted away, the man looks at the officer, not with anger, but with something worse, certainty. He knows how this ends. The officer doesn't, yet. Hours later, reports will be written, language will be polished, edges sanded down. But body cameras don't forget tone. They don't forget pauses. They don't forget the absence of cause. Internal Affairs will watch this footage in silence. Attorneys will watch it in slow motion. The city will do the math. Because this wasn't just a bad arrest. It was a public one, a symbolic one, the kind that confirms fears people already have, the kind that becomes a headline, a racist cop, a black Supreme Court judge, an airport, power abused in plain sight. The officer will insist he followed procedure. He will say he felt threatened. He will say he had no choice. But the footage will say otherwise. It will show a man who never raised his voice, never resisted, never disrespected. It will show an officer who escalated every time his authority was questioned, until questioning became punishment, and that is why the settlement will be so large, because the city won't be paying for handcuffs. They'll be paying for arrogance, for bias. For the moment, an officer chose ego over law and couldn't stop himself from going all the way. As the holding room door closes, the man finally exhales. Not in relief, in resolve. Somewhere above him, administrators are already being notified. Phones are buzzing, names are being checked, titles confirmed. The supervisor is realizing too late what he's allowed to happen under his watch. And back on the terminal floor, the officer stands alone for the first time. The noise returns. Travelers move again. The world keeps going. But his career has stopped. He just doesn't know it yet. By the time the officer realizes the ground has fully collapsed beneath him, the decision has already been made somewhere far above his rank. It doesn't happen loudly. There's no dramatic confrontation, no immediate punishment, just a quiet shift. Emails sent, meetings scheduled, language carefully chosen. The machinery of consequence moves slowly, but it moves with certainty. And it always arrives. The holding room is sterile. Bright lights, hard bench, the kind of place designed to erase individuality. But it doesn't work on him. The man sits upright, hands still cuffed, eyes forward. He doesn't pace. He doesn't complain. He waits. Waiting is another form of control. An administrator enters first, polite, apologetic without saying the word. Then another, then a lawyer. The questions they ask aren't about guilt. They're about exposure. How long was he detained? Who initiated the stop? Which officers were present? Was there any resistance? Each answer tightens the noose somewhere else. When the cuffs finally come off, no one meets his eyes. Respect has returned, but it's laced with shame. They offer water, a quiet room, a private exit. Too late. Outside, the officer is writing his supplemental report. This is where careers are either salvaged or destroyed. He chooses the wrong verbs, passive ones. The subject was perceived as uncooperative. The situation escalated. Language designed to blur agency, designed to hide intent, designed to protect himself. But body cam footage doesn't speak in abstractions. It speaks in tone. Investigators will later note how quickly irritation entered his voice, how often commands were repeated without explanation, how the subject's demeanor remained steady while the officers sharpened. They'll mark the moment the supervisor asked for a charge and the silence that followed. Silence is evidence. The officer will be placed on administrative leave. Routine, they'll say. Non-punitive. But he'll feel it immediately. The locker suddenly colder. The glances shorter. Conversations stopping when he walks by. He will tell himself this is temporary. It isn't. Civil attorneys will reconstruct the encounter frame by frame. Not to understand what happened, but to show how unnecessary it was. They will point to policy manuals the officer signed, training videos he passed, warnings he ignored. They will show how discretion became discrimination. The city will try to settle quietly. They always do. But this case won't stay quiet. The title alone is combustible. The symbolism unavoidable. Every institution fears becoming an example. And this one will. The number climbs as negotiations drag on. 5 million, 10, 15. Each increase reflects not damage, but certainty. The certainty that a jury will see exactly what the camera saw. The certainty that intent won't need to be proven because behavior already has been. $18 million. Approved without celebration, without admission. Just a signature and a press release heavy with regret and light on accountability. The officer will read about it online. Not from his captain, not from internal affairs, from a headline. That's how he'll learn his name is now permanently attached to this moment. Searchable, unavoidable, immutable. The uniform he once believed made him untouchable has instead made him unforgettable. He will tell friends he was doing his job. He will tell family he was misunderstood. He will tell himself the world turned on him. But deep down, there will be a moment, quiet, unguarded, when he remembers the question he couldn't answer. What crime? And how easily all of this could have ended differently. The man he arrested will return to his life, forever changed but never diminished. His dignity will outlast the inconvenience, the humiliation, the delay. History will remember him not for the handcuffs, but for the composure. Because power, when abused, always leaves a trail, and arrogance, when exposed, never survives the light. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a choice, and it cost exactly what it should have.